All right, so welcome everyone once again. My name is Gloria Chan, head of school and founder at the Springwell School. This is our January 2022 virtual open house. This is actually my son, CJ. He's just turned 7 last year, and he's currently studying at Springwell. So this is our campus. We're on 9525 Colesville Road, just within the Beltway, about a mile from downtown Silver Spring. And as many of you mentioned, as I was looking for progressive schooling options for my son, I have two younger children as well. For my children, I really couldn't find anything that was within the Beltway on the Maryland side where innovative curriculum was happening, where student interests were really at the center of the school. You really had to travel a little bit farther towards Bethesda or down to DC or farther up north. And so I was really thinking about how wonderful the community is in our area, and Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, and Wheaton, and all of our surrounding areas. The population is so diverse. People are drawn to this area because of its diversity, because of its quirkiness for Tacoma Park. There's so much innovation happening in Silver Spring. And so part of the inspiration of really founding Springwell was creating this option for families in our community to be able to work together and build a powerful micro school that's a great option for our children. The philosophy is learning for life. I know many of you have already reviewed our website and gotten a sense of our ethos. A little bit about what this actually means, learning for life. For me, prior to founding Springwell, I spent about 7 years in the professional coaching industry. So I worked with grownups, young adults who are just graduating out of college to mid-career transitions, folks in their 20s and 30s and 40s, all the way to retirees into their 60s. And I think my oldest clients were in their 60s. And so really talking with adults and hearing about common challenges that grownups have, like being alive in the world. And some of those challenges were giving ourselves permission to be here, giving ourselves permission to have our own thoughts, our own values, our own sense of who we are and what kind of impact we want to make in the world. And as I, thought about and reflected upon my own journey and supported the reflection of all of my clients during my coaching time, it was really during this period of upbringing and childhood, whether, ideas were coming from our families or from the education system, that really taught us how to learn content and be tested on content, but not necessarily be provided the student-centered opportunity to build skills and reflect on about who we are, about who we want to be in community, and what we want to do in life. So that's really what I'm talking about, what we're talking about when we say learning for life. Every decision at school is intentional. Every curricular decision is intentional. What will the child be taking out of this moment for the rest of their lives? Will they learn how to regulate their own emotions? Will they learn self-care and knowing when they need a break? Will they know how to balance? I know I have challenges in this, balance bodily movement, getting outside, getting fresh air with my time on the computer and at work, and hard at work, getting things moving and motivated and focused. Do I feed myself in a kind way? Can I work my left and my right brain and honor all the parts of me, the mathematical parts, the artistic parts? There are so many things that we want to help students balance at Springwell. And I think if there's one word that's coming up for me today is the word balance. It is about learning content, but it's also about making meaning of it. It is learning how to show adults that they've learned something, but it is also about showing ourselves and being really proud of our own work. So for us, it's always going to be a balance. That's what we mean when we say we're not dogmatic. And hopefully we can, share more and answer some questions. So traditional education, I think we've discussed this a bit, is system-wide, there is, a need to make sure that students aren't falling behind. So I definitely understand how we got here as an education system, how we want to track academic learning for students and how we got here, but it's not preparing our students for the 21st century, and definitely not for the future beyond that. When we think of how fast industries are changing, how fast people are changing career paths, how quickly things are moving, and how much information is, just accessible to us. We want to think about how to prepare our students to be adaptable and to have that sense of self-care as well. So that's what we're talking about, preparing for life in the moment. We have a lot of inspirations, but as I was researching, who else does this really well? When I was doing all the research before founding the school, it was really these 3 post-war European models that were doing it great, because everything collapsed there after the wars. And so they thought about, how can we do this better? And so they came up with these 3 really brilliant approaches. And again, we're not purists. I think Reggio Emilia wouldn't even call itself, a purist, but, we're not pure Montessori. We're not pure Waldorf. We're not pure Reggio Emilia. Instead, we take a lot of beautiful concepts from each one and integrate them beautifully in our own campus in our own way. From Reggio Emilia, we love being student-centered. There are lovely things from all of these, but from Montessori, this whole child approach, mixed age classrooms, the math and language arts materials. And from Waldorf, the sense of slowing down, being connected to ourselves, connected to the world, connected to nature, and these natural rhythms and cycles that we can develop at school. And here are our 5 pillars that really describe, what we believe, how we approach education, how the students are centered in the middle of our school. And I would want to highlight in these the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and this global and community mindset. As I said before, those 3 inspirations were all post-war European models. And so for us, it's making sure that from the very beginning, we highlight a global perspective, cultural awareness and differences, how to interact within community. So I wanted to just highlight those pillars today. Of course, we want to activate the whole child. What does that look like? It means we're student-driven, we're arts integrated. We have lots of hands-on activities, and outdoor education is a part of our curriculum as well. So with that, we're going to pause and just let Rachel kind of share her experience as a parent at our school.
Okay, hi. I just want to start by saying that I'm also an educator. I teach at the University of Maryland, and I am a real perfectionist when it comes to education. I homeschooled my son to college from 2nd grade, and he started taking college classes at 14. And I'm saying that partly to brag, because I don't think moms get to brag very much, but also because I think that we're often presented with this false dichotomy between unstructured, touchy-feely, and then on the other hand, rigorous education that's going to help our kids succeed in life. And I actually think that, my son's education was not super structured. He was always very, very self-directed. And that's why I homeschooled him, because I didn't want him to lose that. And I couldn't find the right school for him. So, I just kind of let him do his own thing. And I'm to go back to the idea of being prepared for the 21st century. I mean, our education system's designed to prepare us for corporate life, I think, a lot of the time. And I think we can see already that when our kids go into the workforce, it's very unlikely they're going to be working in an office 9 to 5, and following directions and staying with the same company for decades. So I think being able to take initiative, being self-directed, being able to work with other people, all of those things are just so important. And I see that I mean, I think you often hear the same kind of buzzwords. You'll see on a lot of school websites, student-centered, or we teach the whole child, or, you know, because people do value these things. But I think putting that into practice is where a lot of teachers, faced with day after day in the classroom, they'll revert to their comfort zone and they'll revert to the way that they were taught. And what I've really been impressed by with Springwell is I actually see those values in practice on a daily basis. So even though I'm not in the classroom, because we've had some snow days and we've had some Zoom classes, and I've of course been spying, and could not be more impressed with Daisy's teacher, Mr. Noah. I mean, I just feel like he so clearly enjoys the company of children. He thinks they're funny and fun to be around. And I also see him constantly asking them higher order thinking questions, like he'll constantly pushing them to think a little deeper, even though they're having a free form conversation and everybody's having fun. Education doesn't have to be painful to be effective, In fact, if you are, if you do feel comfortable and you feel that your teacher actually cares about you, and you feel that you can be yourself in the classroom, that's when you really learn the most. So yeah, I'm very, very impressed.
Thank you, Rachel. And Rachel's going to stay on for the Q&A, but if there are some quick questions for Rachel now, we can entertain them. Does anyone have a question for Rachel as she's sharing her parent testimonial?
I have one, Rachel.
Yeah.
How so did your child that is currently at Springwell, were they homeschooled as well? Or I guess I'm curious about the transition from homeschool to Springwell, if you're one of your children.
Sure. Yeah. So she went to preschool, and then she went somewhere for kindergarten and first grade, and then she went to another school for second and third, I guess, but I think third was mostly online. And so when we switched to online, it just wasn't working for her. She's very social. She's has attention issues. And so I just thought, we'll just homeschool, because she's spending so much time sitting waiting. And I don't want her sitting looking at a screen for 6 hours a day. And it's so much more efficient to homeschool, because you target to your kid, and they can spend 20 minutes and learn a new concept and go play in the park. And they've accomplished more than they would in 5 hours at school. And I think that's why being able to give the kids individual attention is just such a huge part of Springwell. Like, even after just a couple of months of being with Daisy, I felt that Noah really knew. My first parent-teacher conference, I just was amazed that he really knew her and how she learns. And so I really feel that it's an improvement on homeschooling, because she has that same attention, but she's around her peers.
Thank you. That you could have just described my child, so that was very helpful.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Rachel? It won't be the last opportunity. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. And let me go back to my screen share. So now I want to thank you so much, Rachel, for being here today. Now I want to kind of dig into our community. So diversity is a high value for Springwell. And I think it's just part of the ethos, how we express ourselves, how we attract our families. And it's been a very organic attraction. So 50% of the current student population is what you would call, what people would call diverse, essentially non-white. But we know at Springwell that it's so much more than that. I hate giving the statistic, but I know it's necessary. We represent cultures from all around the world, first generation, second generation, third generation. We have folks from Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Dominican Republic, some who are Argentinian, Vietnamese, Chinese, Taiwanese, Jewish, French, Italian, American, German. There's all across the board. And what we love about having this diversity is that that diversity gets brought into the classroom, gets brought into the curriculum. Students love to share who they are, their family histories and stories. And the same goes for our faculty and our staff. So we're also, I don't know where my faculty, there they are, the team. The team is also incredibly diverse when it comes to where we come from around the country, around the world, our ethnic backgrounds, our generational backgrounds. There's such a broad swath of beautiful talent that supports the child. And this diversity for us is a really important part of the model because all of our children have different needs. And so a child that connects really strongly with, you know, someone who's maternal and super warm is going to be very different from a student who needs someone who's like joking and jovial and a little bit more, you know, there's different types of personalities. And this diversity among our staff is so important to make sure that we can meet the needs of every child. So I'm really excited to introduce Malkia Zimbi. She's our assistant head of school. She's got 20 plus years in education. And Miss Malkia, let's see, are you ready for us?
Yes.
Excellent.
I will say my internet is a little wonky, so that's why I was trying to adjust. And so if there's a freeze point, Gloria, take over. Go
Yes,
ahead.
no
Okay.
problem.
All right. So yes, in being in education for 20 years, well, I actually am in my 22nd year now, but I started, you know, in New York City. I was in New York City in half of that term. In public environment. I started public school and I left very quickly. Then I went to charter school. I worked for the Harlem Children's Zone and for about almost 10 years. And then came to Maryland. And at that point, you know, I wanted to try, I went into Montessori. So I have my master's degree in Montessori and I have excelled there for the sole reason of, you know, in Montessori, you know, the focus is on the child and the child developing themselves. And the whole curriculum is about how to help the child, how to help the children to help themselves. Like, you know, I think someone mentioned self-directed education was what attracted me the most about Montessori. And, you know, the reason I went into teaching itself is because I was impressed with Helen Keller, but I was really impressed with Anne Sullivan. I wanted to be Anne Sullivan. I wanted to make the impossible possible based on what was done, not what was talked about, you know? And so, which led me into Montessori. And then, you know, of course, now I'm here to do just that with Gloria, right? To take the best of these three worlds in progressive education and make it happen. And in such a self-directed, beautiful, artistic, expressive way. Okay, oh, we're going in there, sorry, I know, I do go into it. Okay, go. So yeah, so the first strand, we definitely do have mixed level education, or we currently have 2 classrooms, K-1. The other one is 2 to 5th grade. Next year, we'll have 6th to 8th grade. In most of the classrooms, our ratio is between 10 to 12 students. We do assessments, obviously. We do pre and post assessments, especially around language and math every semester. We're a 3-semester or 3-cycle school year, which is approximately anywhere between 10 to 12 weeks. So every 10 to 12 weeks, in order to make this individualized or wrap this curriculum around your child, as a lot of you express, we have to do assessments to make sure progress is happening. We start everyone exactly from where they are, right? Regardless of what the need, regardless, if they have a specialized education plan. Personally, I think everyone should have an individualized education plan, because that's kind of what we're creating anyway. But if they have other needs, right, that need more support, obviously that's included as well. But, we want to see progress, right, every 10 to 12 weeks based on their starting point. So it's not just then, we also do ongoing observations. The teachers are doing student-teacher conferences bi-weekly. Every classroom meet with their teachers, every student meets with their teacher just to really do a big check-in. How are we doing academically? How are we doing socially? What about your friends? How are you feeling? All of that. We have the 3 C's, which is a big stickler here. Sorry, I'm in the office, so I have to tell them not to come in. We have, especially, I'm not masked, but we have, connection, communication, and collaboration are our 3 C's. And so in order to make this self-directed environment, we have to do that with each and every person, from our 4-year-olds, right, to every adult in the building. That's our philosophy. We only have 3 rules: care for self, care for their environment, and care for others, and care for the environment. So there's a lot happening. But obviously, we have hands-on materials. That's another way we do assessments. We do the bi-weekly conferences. We do gallery walks, which is almost like it's student-led projects. Gloria mentioned that in the Regio. And every 10 to 12 weeks, students, based on their interests, create these projects that they've researched, that they have been working on to the community, right? This is my value community contribution to this community, and this is my expression. And they get a chance to do that. And then the progress reports from our 5-year-olds and up, the first 5 minutes of the progress reports before you meet with the teachers, the students are showing you their portfolio. It's saying, hey, this is what I think my best work has been, and this is the reason why. Okay. Yes, so for language and math, we also use, Wilson Language Program, which is one of the best, especially if there's any kind of reading delay in any kind of way, any dyslexia issue. Anyway, it's one of the best that we are capturing all of our students. So regardless of what their reading level, what it is, whether they're in 8th grade or 7th grade, we will do an assessment to make sure that they have their basic foundation skills. Okay, as well as the same for Eureka Math. So setting this strong foundation for each and every student and assessing that and making sure there's no missed points. We do this collectively with the teachers.
Yeah, and just a note, about this is that the Eureka Math and the Wilson language is our baseline. It's our structure, yes. Right? And so we're layering on top of that all the other math and language curriculum that we love. The love of storytelling, using music and math and rhythms and art to reinforce our math learning. So this is just the baseline, and everything else is layered on top. So for the parents that were asking about structure versus not structure, this is how we do our structure, and we layer all of the other creative student-led curriculum on top of this.
That's correct. So we currently are in our winter session. Every session we have a thematic unit, where our thematic unit is an adaptation. We do have a STEM collaboration that we have, that the students get a chance to engage in, as well as our economic projects. Our economic project, the Classroom Economy Project, is we do our baseline based on the education format that the Vanguard group, the investment group have. It's actually free online, and those of you who are homeschooling, you can use it as well. But it's a great free materials, free assessment, free way to actually implement financial education, because they have that commitment that they offer pretty quickly. So we give them that baseline during this session. So by the next session, they're already creating their own, first row of creating their own Springwell bucks. They're creating their projects. They're creating, oh, here we go. These are some of the economy projects they came up with. They're tracking their data. They're doing marketing. They're advertising. And so, you know, these Springwell bucks between the logo L.
I think Miss Malkia's internet is a little wonky now, so I could just give some explanation about the projects. So these are the first time that we did this last year. This was all student initiated. So it came from when they were studying the Montessori great stories of how early economies began, how math was founded. And they just said, we want to create a market. So all of the children moved so quickly, faster than our teachers can catch up with, and created their own shops, their own materials, their own wares. And they had open marketplaces where they can sell, they can exchange, they can place orders. And they had all of this integrated math that was differentiated. You could see that they kept their own balance sheets. They kept their own inventory. One of our upper elementary students was working on decimals. So we started her on how to calculate taxes, all the way to social studies of like, what's a fair taxation policy? Like thinking about things like that. So there's a lot of great math learning, history learning, social studies, socio-emotional learning, managing your stress when you have all these customers and they all want to buy your wares at the same time. So it was lovely to see, and we'll be continuing that. Miss Malkia, how's your internet? All right, let me head back. Do you want me to take this or?
Yeah, Gloria, take it because it's very unstable. And
no
usually
problem.
by that 11 o'clock time, I might be.
No problem, I can take it. So in addition to our thematic studies, in addition to our classroom projects, we also follow the student interests. So the students were really interested in building transistor radios last year. And so there was a few weeks where they just worked on studying how they work, how to build them, how to report out on it, and even starting to study frequency and sound waves in the upper elementary classroom. So we follow the student interest and weave them in. In the winter and spring sessions, we have environmental education where we hire garden educators to share how the seed cycle works, how the plant cycle works, how our bodies are connected with our global environment. This year, we'll be also focusing on waste and sustainability. So thinking about how much waste we produce as an individual, as a school, as a collective. So pondering some of these larger questions about sustainability and also our health. And of course, some of you are interested in our middle school program. So everything that we've developed in our elementary school, we're continuing on through our middle school. So if you think about all of the math and language baseline work, we'll be continuing that, but layering on student interest on top of that, layering student projects on top of it. Really important in middle school is developing this sense of self-confidence, discovering your own capabilities, and really figuring out who you want to be in the world, what kind of impact you want to make based on this combination of your values, your passions, and your gifts. This is really pulling from my coaching days of what is the sweet spot for how one can navigate in this world powerfully is when our values and our passions and our gifts align and they make impact in a way that makes us really proud. And on top of that, this is like project-based student-centered learning on steroids in middle school. We're thinking Shark Tank meets Model Congress, meets STEAM Expos. The students will be exposed to all areas of kind of human life on Earth, business, government, STEM, arts, nonprofits, academia, and we're really excited to kind of integrate parent expertise into our middle school model. For example, if you're a gardener, if you're a chef, if you're a business owner, if whatever your expertise is as a parent, we welcome that kind of integration into the curriculum. So that is kind of where we'll land with our academic presentation. I want to save time for questions. We have all of our standard COVID-19 protocols. I can answer any questions about what guidelines we follow, CDC or Maryland or this or that. There's so much confusion in the last 2 months, but happy to answer questions about that. Ms. Malkia mentioned enrollment caps. So for our K-1s, we'll cap it at 11 students, upper elementary at 15, and for our middle school, we're targeting 10 students. We also have floater staff that help us to maintain our student staff ratio at 9:1. We have sliding scale tuition. So for those who want to take advantage of it, we'll gather all of your household financial data and determine your tuition accordingly. We'll work with all of our families that are interested. Enrolling admissions. So the first step is to come to an open house or view a recording. The second step is to apply. You'll have 3 weeks to submit your academic and financial records and have a meeting with me and Ms. Malkia. And then after everything's submitted, we inform the family of the decision, and you'll have, a few weeks to decide. It's depending on when you actually apply, you'll have anywhere from 1 to 2, 3 weeks to apply, to respond. And then this is where we can get to the good stuff and answer your questions. Anyone have any questions?
Hi, this is Kate. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's just super exciting to see everything that you guys have created in this amazing institution. One of the questions I had that I've sort of combed through the website, just kind of eager to get more information on, is actually just about the physical space of the campus and any outdoor areas and how they're integrated into the school day.
Yeah, that's a great question. So next year we will have 3 classrooms. A lower elementary classroom, upper elementary, and middle school classroom. So that's our physical space. It's super simple, but we could share. Our staff is working on a little video that we can share that'll have a tour of the space that we can share with you. I think you asked about outdoor education as well. For the lower elementary classroom, we have an on-campus enclosed playground. If you drive by, you'll be able to see it. So they have access to that for 1 hour each day. We also have a garden area. Again, if you do a drive-by, you'll see our 2 beds. That's our garden area, and they love to play there, to work the garden there, to be together there. They also, because we are kind of in a urban, suburban style campus, we do take advantage of our local green areas as much as possible. So every Wednesday, the students go for Walking Wednesday, and they walk to Sligo Creek, or they walk to the neighborhood playground, or they walk to a green patch of area that's close by the YMCA, and spend a couple hours out there for every Wednesday. And they do that for some recesses too, depending on the day and the weather. So it's a combination of on-campus outdoor areas and leveraging the green spaces in our neighborhood. I hope that answered your whole question, Kate.
And I look forward to the little virtual tour video as well. We're not actually local currently, so I'm just every little bit I can get that. Thanks for that info.
Yeah, you bet. Rachel Brennan.
I was wondering if foreign languages or other languages in addition to English are included. And I also wanted to know if it's possible, a little bit more about the admissions process as well.
Sure. For language, currently, the students are getting once a week exposure to Mandarin. We had some Spanish, but currently it's just Mandarin. For middle school, well, we're still working on staffing for middle school, so that will highly depend on, who comes on in their language skills. So that's like TBD.
And then for the admissions process, you mentioned,
admissions.
oh, I'm sorry. You
Yeah,
mentioned, I didn't
admissions.
want to like overflow.
No,
overload
you're
you.
good. Did you have specific questions about the admissions process?
I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the rolling piece of it. So is it that you will fill the class first, or is it that, how are you envisioning that for
Yes.
the group? And if students are already there, like, do they get priority?
Yes.
How is that?
Yeah, so the current families get priority. So they'll let me know by the end of January if they want to hold their spot. And then essentially what rolling admissions is whenever you can apply any time of year. And if there's a spot and it's a great fit, you can hold your spot, is essentially how we're doing it. So there's no like enrollment, there's no formal rigid enrollment season, but typically there is an ebb and flow. So there will be an ebb and flow between January and March for parents who want to apply for the fall. There'll be an ebb and flow of like summertime applications when people are just moving back and kind of figuring out their transitions. And there is an ebb and flow in the winter of people who want to, who aren't happy with their fall session and want to find a new option. So there is kind of a rhythm to it, but we won't, we'll essentially take an application all year round. Anyone else?
I have to run off for a meeting, but I just wanted to thank you for this information and for what you're doing. So I just didn't want to just disappear. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions for Ms. Malkia on academics or from Rachel on the parent perspective? And I can also hit the recording because I know